What's up, everybody? It's Brandon from Box Office Banner and Cult Flick Symposium, and we are here to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the final installment, or supposed final installment. Money talks, right, people? Of the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. The last we may ever see of Star-Lord, Gamora. Yes, Gamora. Nebula. Yeah, go ahead and throw her in there. Fucking Drax, Rocket, Groot, all them peeps. And we got some new peeps in this one too. This movie, did it measure up? You know, a lot of people weren't feeling the second one. If you watch my review of the second one, you see I am not on that wavelength. I love Guardians of the Galaxy 2. But a lot of people were saying this was a return to form. I'll say I agree. This movie was pretty fucking amazing, man. And I don't want to talk too much about it because, you know, the trailers were pretty close to the vest overall, especially for a movie like this. It's easy to fall into spoiler territory. So I don't want to go too deep into things. But I will say the camaraderie, all the chemistry, everything between the characters is still as good as it ever was. There is certain things that happen amongst the group that just will put a smile on your face. It will have you just stuck, especially when you get to like the ending. Now, this movie's supposed to be pretty fucking sad. It is sad. Maybe in ways that you don't necessarily expect it to be sad. I will say that much. But there is something about this movie. There's so many moments in it that also bring on that almost happy sadness. Just, you know, like the feeling as if like this is it. Wow, this is really it. And you might even find yourself, you know, realizing you appreciate these characters maybe even more than you realized that you did. Because even as a big fan of this, you know, franchise now, I'll call it a franchise at 3 movies. I don't know when it's technically a franchise, but, you know, all the other appearances in other MCU movies, the fucking Christmas special. By the time you get a trilogy, it definitely feels franchise-ish, I will definitely say. And this one, you, even as like a big fan, like it kind of hit me even tougher, you know, not just the other emotions within the movie, but just the, wow, like this might be it. These guys really built something together and they really put together such an amazing crew between, you know, even when they're not all together, when it's just like a tandem or, you know, a couple of them together, or when they're all synced up in one big ball and they're just fucking killing it all at once. This whole unit just has such good chemistry and they play off of each other so well and fit just like puzzle pieces perfectly together in their own weird, messed up way. Every character in this movie gets to shine. I'll say one specific character, though. We get a lot of backstory, and I did not know, and that's why I don't want to say anything, that we were going to get this much backstory on this specific character or any character at all for that. Like, I didn't even know we were going into backstory character. What the hell did I just say? Backstory territory. So watching this movie and really like just going back in time and seeing everything and then some that, you know, whether we had an idea of what they went through or not, that, you know, remains to be seen. You'll see once you see the movie. But really getting to peel everything back layer by layer and just look at it through like a clear lens and just be like, wow, like this is getting deep, really deep, and it cuts you deep at times. It is very special and probably the best part of the movie. It is very interesting what they do with the backstory elements here. The story, anybody that was like, oh, well, Guardians 2 didn't have a great story. This is the best story amongst the movies. Like, I'm really invested. It ties into the backstory, but it also goes, you know, through, again, I don't even want to say the story necessarily because you don't really know. You know, it's basically the Guardians and it sells you on the vibe. Not even many jokes in the trailer. And while there's jokes in this movie and they're funny, I don't know if it's the least funniest Guardians, but there's definitely, you know, moments that are way more serious, I'll say. But you definitely do get those comedy bits. And the serious moments in this movie, I don't know, man. There's something about this movie, even though it doesn't really relinquish the comedy, that when the things are going down, I don't know if the movie just really capitalized on this is the last go round, but we feel the stakes more in this movie, and the stakes feel a little higher than your average Marvel movie where, you know, like the action's going on, but it's almost playful and it's very PG-13, you know, that type of vibe. This one, while, you know, there's nothing necessarily that feels like it should be rated R outside of like maybe a couple scenes where it kind of pushes the boundaries. It doesn't do it enough to where you're like, oh my God, like this is just violent. How could this be an MCU movie? But there's enough going on here to where there's a couple times where you're like, oh man, they kind of took it there. That's what's up. But you're also sitting there kind of just like, wow, like there's something about this movie that has a little extra. You're feeling, again, the stakes where you're like, wow, like this is like, I don't really know if this person's gonna make it, or like they could kill off this person, or are they gonna take it there? They might. As far as villains go, you know, everybody wants to know about Adam Warlock, Will Poulter's character. I've seen some people say underutilized, that have seen it. I don't necessarily want to say underutilized. You could have used him more, but I will say his character, you know, we got to have a review here, people. It's not really heavy on spoilers, but he is downright like dominant. Like you believe he can do some fucking damage. And I love that about him. And the first time you see him, it's like, oh shit, like this guy is a whole problem for them. I mean, he is coming out the gate swinging. But they elect to make him a little jokier than I necessarily liked. Like, I mean, he's not a full-on joke, but he's also not menacing either. So while his movements and what he goes through with are very, very menacing, and you're believable and like, oh man, this guy's a legitimate problem, which is more than I can say for most MCU villains. Like, it's not, the believability is just like, I don't even think, you know, a lot of MCU villains, I'm like, I don't even take him serious. When he's in action, you are taking him serious. But again, like the personality traits that they gave him, I don't know how it is in the trailer, not the trailers, the comics. Never read the comics. Don't know exactly. Maybe this is just, you know, keeping it to the book. But I just couldn't really get into his personality. I mean, I can from a standpoint of like, oh, it's kind of like a funny, kooky Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but I wanted him to be downright menacing. And there's other villains too, you know, villain-esque type of people. I won't dive too much into that. And one in particular with them, while I find the villain kind of annoying and, you know, again, not perfect villains, damn it, with this fucking specific franchise within the whole franchise of the MCU cinematic universe, not perfect villains, but again, like this guy, even while I found him annoying, I did, however, believe him to also be sinister. Like you believe he's ready to do something that fucked up, which is very good for an MCU villain. But again, the character overall did annoy me. Like I didn't like him as a villain in terms of personality. But again, I'll say again, they did something here to where it's like every one of these Guardians movies, like going back to Ronan, he was menacing, but they kind of dialed it back, as I used in the first movie's review, the diabolicalness, and that kind of tampered off. So it was like, not a great villain, but better than most of the MCU. Second movie, could have done more with Kurt Russell, man. They really could have. But at the end of the day, it's like, dude, it's Kurt Russell's a villain, so it's still better than most of the MCU. Then you got a couple villains in this movie where one is like kind of annoying, but like, damn, I believe he would do that. This man don't give a fuck. And then you got Will Poulter's character that's kind of got similar vibes to that. So it's like, it's not a complete home run in terms of villains here. But once again, Guardians, I think, is a cut above the rest because there is parts of the villain that are just really like, this is great for MCU. But if you could just nail it down to where the whole character is complete just once for me, please. And if this is the last one, it looks like they did not. But overall, for MCU villains, I'm pleased. You know, at a certain point, you got to look at the scope of everything. It's like, dude, we know we normally get those, so this is, given what we're dealing with, not too bad. So villains in this movie, pretty solid for MCU standards. I don't know if I really touched on this. Sorry if I'm repeating myself. The backstory in general, though, will definitely it'll tear you up a little bit here. So be looking for that. And that's not necessarily all the tearjerker stuff within this movie. So also be ready for that. God, guys, it's kind of hard to not talk spoilers. I was thinking about doing spoilers after the review, but I'm just trying to, I guess, sell you on the feel of the movie. The soundtrack, again, just like the other ones, amazing. There's one specific scene involving, I've seen this in so many movies lately, so it was kind of disappointing, but this one takes the cake with this song. No Sleep Till Brooklyn. Just wait for that to come on, because there's a moment with No Sleep Till Brooklyn by Beastie Boys that is just magical. The way this action scene is shot is fucking phenomenal. It's beautiful. Again, as I said earlier, with the characters, everybody gets a chance to shine. Everybody gets to shine in this action scene. The way they all whoop ass in a certain way. I don't want to touch on too much of it. Just strap in, be ready, because it is a very well shot, very fun action scene. There's a first that happens in MCU movies here. I don't even want to spoil this. I'm trying to stay away from spoilers the best I can here, or even mild spoilers. You know what I mean? But there is something that happens in this movie, I will say, that cracked me up, and it's not something that happens in your typical MCU movies. So be on the lookout for that. It might not be as big as I'm making it out to be, but at the same time, I want, if you haven't seen it yet, this is something that could definitely be spoiled for you. If you have not seen this information yet, it'd be better to see it and be like, oh shit, like I did. At least hopefully you get the same joy out of it that I did. And maybe or maybe not. You have to revisit this if you even know what I'm talking about. When you're like, oh, that's what he's talking about. We'll see. But it was a pretty funny moment, actually. We'll go with funny. And world building, all that shit, very good. We got another incarnation of Groot. Let's talk about him specifically here. Not go too deep, but I'm enjoying this one too. I feel like Groot's a little more dialed back in this one, but when he is dialed forward, he's very, very effective. And overall, guys, it was fucking great. It really, I had a feeling they were going to, and not just a feeling, but also my prior love to like these specific movies. I really expected to enjoy this movie and enjoy it. I did quite a fucking bit, but I thought they were going to nail it, and they did. They did. Like, I can't think of any other way to say it. I keep wanting to, it's like I'm starting to veer off and I'm about to start talking about other things, but I'm like, I don't want to give y'all too much. Go into this one as blind as possible. And I think, like I did, you will have a lot of fun with it. So hopefully I've sold the vibe of the movie overall, but you will not, I don't think, be disappointed. Like I said, a little bit more of a serious tone in this one, all while not, sacrificing some of the great funny moments we get in this franchise from each individual character. But man, the serious tone, for me, very welcomed in a final installment. We want the stakes to be high, and stakes were high. They were. Those motherfuckers was high. Yeah. Good times, guys. I would talk spoilers, but I don't know, man. Like I said, I was thinking about doing it like after, I'll be like, all right, everybody, spoilers, get out. But I don't think I'm going to do it. I think I might end up doing that video with somebody else, talk with the whole crew or something. But guys, go see this movie, okay? Please do yourself a favor, especially if you're a fan of this franchise. Go see it. It's a great fucking movie. Best of the MCU since Endgame, some people are saying. Yeah, it's probably accurate. Even though I've been a huge fan of this new wave, but most people haven't. Go check it out. Trust me. I think you'll enjoy it. Love you guys. Peace.